you used to say, part of the job is just keeping your ass out of the fire. You used to tell me that. And that's true, building those relationships. I always thought you also did a really great job of hiring people that fit with your leadership style too. And
That's right. Yeah.
we had on our team, we had a lot of really hardworking people that wanted to please. And I felt like that was always something, I mean, as much as you can, you try to look for when you're hiring, versus when you get into at the level that you got to later on, where you're not even doing the hiring, and there's already people in place. Sometimes that can get outside of your comfort zone a little bit. And I was curious as to, hey, look, on the outside looking in, that's kind of, I sort of noticed that, but I was wondering how that differed for you, going from an environment that you had created, you had built up over the years. And some people will say, oh my gosh, I do the worst job doing that. I'm better in the opposite way. But going from that type of environment to an environment now where you didn't do the hiring, you're not doing it, and you're working with these people that maybe are not, they don't know you as well, and maybe they're not into your leadership as much, or maybe they are. But I figured, hey, look, I wanted to know a little bit more about that progress and what you thought about that.
Yeah, so no, that's cool, man. I appreciate you bringing up another traumatic moment from because generally speaking, look, being misunderstood is a root source of a lot of trauma for me in a lot of ways. And to your point, right, those that I hired, right, I have a belief that, look, if you're willing to put in the work, then I'm willing to keep working with you, period, right? And so so somebody who just had a desire, then I know, after that, the rest of it's teachable, right? None of us came out of the womb knowing how to do this stuff, right? So we all, right? So I looked for more of raw ingredients, I guess, in that respect too. But to continue to answer your question, I re-asked me that question, Ty.
So you went from a team, Skiddy, that you had put together.
That's right. Yeah, thank you. There we go.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was a real problem for me, frankly, because people wouldn't understand me, whether it be my sense of humor or whether it be my directness, or how I would say things, and I view things as feedback to get better, and in many cases, feedback to get, the bias typically behind that is, if I'm getting feedback to get better, I'm not doing something right. Right. And so, like, people that didn't know him, right, that would be a real big challenge, and as I also got outside of sales and the makeup of people, the wiring is very different when, between salespeople and marketing people and data people versus data people, and things of that nature. And so I struggled a lot, and interestingly enough, some of my best relationships with others that I didn't hire only came after a massive blow up. So I don't know. I'm sure you remember Strable, obviously.
Oh yeah.
Right, and I mean, I had Strable was also, I value my relationship with her tremendously, and I didn't hire her, and I interpreted her, and then this was like when she ended up moving to my team from somebody else's. Based on how I would interpret somebody's actions, I interpreted her actions as like not caring or this, right, essentially. And so we went out to dinner and had a talk about it, and I essentially accused her of not caring and this and that, and then that burst into I think there may have been some tears involved, so then I feeling bad, and then she's telling me the otherwise, and then I think there's most likely some well, F you and F you. And then once you kind of do that with each other and you recognize that it's okay, there's a new foundation of equality, I guess, that is formed, right? That then in the comfort level, right, that can be had. And so, and I'm sure if you think back, there's different situations like that where stuff like that happened between you and I that made you then feel comfortable to, push buttons later on, right? And so, unfortunately, the one thing I never figured out how to do during that corporate career was how to establish that relationship without that blow up.
Yeah. feel like you're describing like the military, like you come out here, we're gonna break you down, build you back up again.
Yeah, well, in hindsight, there probably was some of that unintentionally, right? Like I'm gonna say, I would never. I think hopefully even back then, people would know that my MO is never to tear people down. However, that being said, that doesn't mean. But I can also tell you that I was definitely ignorant of the effect of the wording that can be. You know what I mean? How the wording can be interpreted, right? And how that could be taken that way, even though that wasn't my intention, right? And so I definitely, I think, had a lot of challenges and a lot of trauma because I say trauma too, because that means like people that I felt, I don't know, how would they say, like, I'm not good about, people that I had positive things to say about, didn't think that I had those positive things to say about them.
Yeah.
Right. And so that bummed me out. Right. And that's all I'm saying. Right. So I could never figure out how to get that one right. Right. Until again, it was in hindsight. And to the back end of that question was a lot of people would be like, Graham, you were a pain in the butt or whatever else, but I got to tell you, we didn't realize how much you did for us or how much you covered us until you were gone.
Yeah.
There was a lot, unfortunately, there was a lot of that then too. There were people didn't, and so, I never figured out how to do it in real time, man.